Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Monument from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Monument. It is impossible to say exactly at what period the idea of a monument in the third degree was first introduced into the symbolism of Freemasonry. The early expositions of the 18th century, although they refer to a funeral, make no allusion to a monument. The monument adopted in the American system consists of a weeping virgin holding in one hand a sprig of acacia and in the other an urn. Before her is a broken column on which rests a copy of the Book of Constitutions, while Time behind her is attempting to disentangle the ringlets of her hair. The explanation of these symbols will be found in their proper places in this work. Oliver, in his Landmarks 2:146, cites this monument without any reference to its American origin. Early in the 18th century, the Master's Monument was introduced into the French system, but its form was entirely different from the one adopted in the United States of America. It is described as an obelisk on which is inscribed a golden triangle, in the center of which the tetragrammaton is engraved. On the top of the obelisk is sometimes seen an urn pierced by a sword. In the ancient and accepted Scottish rite, an entire degree has been consecrated to the subject of the hieramic monument. Altogether, the monument is simply the symbolic expression of the idea that veneration should always be paid to the memory of departed worth. This emblem has usually been considered as an invention of Brother Jeremy L. Cross, and doubtless he is largely responsible for its present form in our standard work. Brother Robert B. Folger in the Masonic newspaper, New York City, May 10, 1879. See also Stellar Theology, Robert H. Brown, page 65. Giving Cross's account of its introduction into the work, says, "The causes which led him first to devise the plan of such work were as follows. He was passionately fond of Masonry, studied under Thomas Smith Webb, Gleason, and others, became perfect under them in the letters and work, and then started through the country as a lecturer in the year 1810. He was a man of excellent appearance in early life, very fluent in language, and withal a very fine singer. As a matter of course, he became very popular. The business of lecturing flowed in upon him very fast, and he had as much to engage his mind in that line as he could well attend to. Wishing to take advantage of all the business that offered, he found the work slow of accomplishment by reason of delays caused by imperfect memories. He wanted something of an objective kind, which would have the effect of bringing to mind the various subjects of his lectures, and so fixing the details in the mind. As with the sets of objects presented to the sight, the lectures in detail would be complete. There was not at that time any guide for lodges, except the so-called Master's Carpet and the works of Preston and Webb. The Master's Carpet was deficient, being without many of the most important emblems, and those which it displayed were very much mixed up. The work of Preston did not agree with the adopted work. That of Webb agreed perfectly, but still was wanting in its most important part, namely the hieroglyphics, by which the work is plainly and uniformly presented to the learner, rendering it easy of acquirement and imprinting it upon the mind in such a manner that it will not readily be forgotten. He considered the matter for many months, and finally attempted to draw various plans, taking Webb's monitor for a guide. Part of the work he accomplished satisfactorily to himself. This included the first and second degrees, and although there was but little really original in the emblems which he produced, yet the classification and arrangement were his own. He went on with the third degree very well as far as the monitor of Webb goes when he came to a pause. There was a deficiency in the third degree which had to be filled in order to effect his purposes, and he became wearied in thinking over the subject. He finally consulted a brother, formerly a mayor of New Haven, who at the time was one of his most intimate friends, and they, after working together for a week or more, could not hit upon any symbol which would be sufficiently simple and yet answer the purpose. Whereupon the copperplate engraver, also a brother who was doing his work, was called in. They went at the business with renewed courage, and the number of hieroglyphics which had by this time accumulated was immense. Some were too large, some too small, some too complicated, requiring too much explanation, and many not at all adapted to the subject. Finally, the copperplate printer said, "Brother Cross, when great men die, they generally have a monument." "That's right," said Cross. I never thought of that. And away he went. He was missing from the company and was found loitering around the burying ground in New Haven in a maze. He had surveyed all that was there, but did not seem satisfied. At last he got an idea, whereupon the council came together again, and he then told them that he had got the foundation of what he wanted. That while sojourning in New York City, he had seen a monument erected over Commodore Lawrence in the southwest corner of Trinity Churchyard. That it was a glorious monument to the memory of a great man who fell in battle. It was a large marble pillar, broken off. The part broken off was taken away, but they had left the capital lying at the base. He would have that pillar for the foundation of his new emblem, but would bring the other part of the pillar in, leaving it resting against the base. Then one could know what it all meant. The other part of the pillar should be there. This was assented to, but more was wanted. They needed some inscription describing the merits of the dead. They found no place on the column, and after a lengthy discussion they hit upon an open book placed upon the broken pillar. But there should, in the order of things, be some reader of the book. So they selected the emblem of innocence in a beautiful virgin who should weep over the memory of the deceased while she read of his heroic deeds. It would be proper to state that the monument erected to the memory of Commodore Lawrence was put up in the southwest corner of Trinity Churchyard in the year 1813, after the fight between the frigates Chesapeake and Shannon, in which battle Lawrence fell. It was a beautiful marble pillar broken off, and a part of the capital laid at its base. The monument remained there until 1844 and 1845, at which time Trinity Church had been taken down and rebuilt as it now stands. When finished, all the debris was cleaned away, the burial grounds trimmed and fancifully decorated, and the corporation of the church took away the old and dilapidated monument of Lawrence from that spot and erected a new one of a different form, placing it in the front of the yard on Broadway at the lower entrance of the church where it now stands. Brother Cross and myself visited the new monument together, and he expressed great disappointment at the change, saying it was not half as good as the one they had taken away. The claim of Cross to having originated the emblem is, however, disputed. Oliver speaks of the monument but does not assign to it an American origin, and the idea itself is very old. In the Barney Ritual of 1817, formerly in the possession of Samuel Wilson of Vermont, which was the work adopted by the Grand Lodge of Iowa in 1860, there is the marble column, the beautiful Virgin weeping, the open book, the sprig of acacia, the urn, and time standing behind. The only part lacking is the broken column, and the words referring to this were added later. Samuel Wilson says, previous to 1826, but the date or circumstances of their getting in I cannot recall. Thus it would seem that everything in the present emblem except the reference to the broken column was in use prior to the publication of Cross's work, and in fact the emblem in somewhat different form is frequently found in Ancient Symbolism, see Quarterly Bulletin, Iowa Masonic Library, July 1921, page 82, C.C. Hunt, to whom we are greatly indebted for information on this subject. The monument to Captain James Lawrence was formerly in the rear of the churchyard, but in December 1846, the vestry directed that it be moved from the old site to a place near to and southeast of the south porch, left of the entrance, of Trinity Church on Broadway, New York City. There, the condition of the memorial aroused some criticism, and plans were made for a new one, which, as might be expected, failed to satisfy all concerned, one good brother describing it as a mere reproduction in stone of an inverted bath tub. In May 1864, the vestry had the two tablets formerly on the monument framed, and with the marble column entrusted to the custody of the New York Historical Society. The two tablets commemorate the heroic patriotism of Captain James Lawrence, killed on June 1, 1813, in action between the frigates Chesapeake and Shannon, and whose dying words were, "Don't give up the ship." For data regarding the first monument and its destination, we are indebted to Robert H. Kelby, New York Historical Society, and to W.F.L. Egiltinger, Corporation of Trinity Church. With the Jews, the column symbolized the princes, rulers, or nobles, and a broken column denoted that a pillar of the state had fallen. In Egyptian mythology, Isis is sometimes pictured weeping over the broken column which conceals the body of her husband Osiris, while behind her stands Horus or Time pouring ambrosia on her hair. In Hastings's Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics, Isis is said to be sometimes represented standing. In her right hand is a sistrum, in her left a small ewer, and on her forehead is a lotus, emblem of resurrection. In the Dionysiac mysteries, Dionysius is represented as slain. Rhea goes in search of the body. She finds it and causes it to be buried in due form. She is sometimes represented as standing by a column holding in her hand a sprig of wheat, emblem of immortality. Since though it be placed in the ground and die, it springs up again into newness of life. She was the wife of Coronis or Time, who may fittingly be represented as standing behind her. In the Grand Lodge Library at Cedar Rapids, Iowa, there is a book entitled A Brief History of Freemasonry by Thomas Johnson, who at the time of writing the book was Grand Tyler of the Grand Lodge of England and janitor to the Grand Royal Arch Chapter of England. He states that the book is published by permission of the officers of the Grand Lodge of England, who have honored it by their subscriptions. This book, we understand, was first published in 1782. The copy in the library is the second edition, published in 1784. In his introduction, he states, "I have also taken the liberty to introduce a design for a monument in honor of a great artist. And although I'm well aware that we have no account of any such having been erected over his grave, yet we have many precedents, both ancient and modern, of sumptuous piles being reared to preserve in memory and perpetuate the merits of the worthy and ingenious of all orders and descriptions, though their bodies may have been buried in distant countries, nay, or perhaps in the depth of the sea. I have therefore, under so respectable a sanction, designed this monument to adorn, as it richly deserves, the memory of a great man amidst the thousands of other structures in honor of his craft." As part of the history connected with the monument, he says, "The capestone was finished with great joy, which, however, was soon interrupted by the sudden death of the great artist and worthy Tyrian Deputy Grand Master under King Solomon. After some time being allowed the craft to vent their sorrow, he was buried with great solemnity near the temple, whose memory an elegant monument is designed to perpetuate. His description of the monument is as follows: the father of the man, whose memory this tomb is designed to perpetuate, dying, he was left to the care of his mother. His name, profession, the manner of his death, and many other circumstances concerning him are well known to all good Masons. Whoe'er besides would this grand secret trace, must seek it only in its proper place. The Holy Bible, square and compasses are figurative of the three greatest moral blessings which man can be endowed with in his warfare through this world. They are entwined with a laurel branch as an emblem of honor to all those who, by applying them to their proper uses, will certainly attain the end for which they were designed. They weapons prove, which if you rightly wield, will greater victories gain than sword or shield. Vanquish your foes, restrain all dissipation, and bless the day when you became a Mason. The insignia on the top of the urn emblematically point out where the deceased was when living, which together with the sun and moon are likewise typical of three things, which though of lesser note than those before, a Mason you must be, if you'd know more. The three figures in chains, when attentively considered, will be recollected by every good Mason, who is master of his profession, not only whom they represent, but likewise why they are so depicted in so seemingly disgraceful a situation. As to all strangers, I would advise them to take due warning how they vauntingly decry the mystic powers of Masonry, nor seek to learn by any other rules than those proposed in just Masonic schools. There, from foundation to the top, you'll raise, yet fail in words to speak a Mason's praise. The seat of one of the figures is typical, as well as its contract, which stands beside it. A near relation of the deceased is there, unperceived by all but Masons. There are other emblems which the craft alone can best elucidate, especially the well-known letter G, which plainly pointeth out what mote it be. The monument shows an urn on the top, and above the urn is a square and compass. Below the urn is the Holy Bible, square and compass, intertwined with a laurel branch. On the urn is a letter G. On one side of the monument is a sun, on the other a moon. The inscription reads, "In memory of a great artist." born AM 2995, État 47. This shows that the idea of a monument to mark the grave of the temple architect was introduced into Freemasonry at least as early as 1782, and it is quite possible that various brethren at different times made changes in the form of the monument until the broken column was added by Brother Cross. The general sale of the Masonic chart published by Cross seems to have fixed this form, so that there has been no change since. While, therefore, it may be true that Cross gave to the emblem its present form, it cannot be said that he gave expression to an entirely new idea. The greater part of it is an adaptation rather than an invention. An old idea prompted anew in a receptive mind by the memorial to Lawrence. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.